This is Sean Slack, and we'll welcome you to the first edition of Orlazil magazine. In a few months, we're about to sit down with Mayor Teresa Jacobs of Orange County, Florida. We're going to talk about a few things, including Orlando City soccer, tourism here in Orlando, Brazil, and many other things. Thanks a lot for tuning in, and let's check the interview. All right, so good morning, everybody. We're actually in the office of Mayor Teresa Jacobs here in Orlando, Florida, and this is the premiere edition for Orlazil magazine. Mayor Jacobs, thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Absolutely.
This is, a very exciting moment for us, and we look forward to, many more meetings with you if possible. You've been an ardent supporter of Orlando City Soccer Club since its inception, and I can distinctly remember speaking in front of you and other Orange County board members on their behalf at the stadium vote last year downstairs, and then interviewing you after, and you were tremendously, excited, enthusiastic because of what was happening. Can you kind of talk about your feelings as the mayor of Orange County and the sense of pride you must feel now as this reality is about to take place?
Oh, I am proud and really excited about this opportunity. I've been a fan of the sport of soccer since my kids were little. It was probably one of the few sports I played when I was in high school, and it's such a great international sport as well. And watching the cultural change that I've seen in our community, as well as we have more and more Hispanic influence in our community, as well as Brazilian influence in our community, which loves the game of soccer, has certainly enriched my appreciation for the sport and what this is going to bring to our community. I think first and foremost, we've got a great fan base, and it's just going to be fun.
Sure.
And that sense of pride and identity and connection to the team, it's already there, and it's just growing in leaps and bounds. On an economic sense, it has great value as well. It helps to position us as something bigger and broader and more exciting as a place to live than being the tourism capital of the world. I mean, that's great for tourists, but what does that say about where you want to live?
Exactly.
Soccer says a lot about where you want to live. Having our own MLS team says a lot about where you want to live. So that, I think, is probably the greatest part, is it is expanding our identity, what we think of ourselves, and what the country, and more important, the world thinks about us in terms of quality of life.
Fantastic. A couple weeks ago, the Fill the Bowl campaign was launched inside of Citrus Bowl, as you, Mayor Dyer, Phil Rollins, Kaká, MLS Commissioner Don Garber were all on hand. And, they have put out a campaign to surpass the 65,000 seat mark, which is fantastic. Now, they've already surpassed 43,000 seats being sold for that game. How important is it to you and the city of Orlando to show the nation on live television that day that soccer will thrive in the city beautiful here?
Well, to be honest with you, when I heard their goal, I thought, that is really big. In fact, I got a little nervous and thought, is that doable? And look at the numbers already; it's just phenomenal. I think it's important that we show the support. I also think this community has already done that. But forget about whether you're coming to show support or not. Let me just impress upon anybody who hasn't bought a ticket yet. There is only one time to be at the first MLS home game.
Right.
There's only one opportunity to be a part of history, and that's March 8th. So forget about whether it's important to us. If you care about soccer, if you love this community, if you want to make history, you want to be in that bowl. And even if you don't care about history, if you just want to see a really good game and a fun crowd, and be a part of a great day, you want to be in that. You want to be in that bowl.
That's the truth. That is the truth. Tourism is the driving force, obviously, here in Central Florida, and we've talked briefly about the importance of Brazil and Argentina with the marketplace here, and you obviously contributed with Orlando Green and Yellow magazine with Justine Asal and I last year, and do you feel like professional sports, you touched upon it a little bit, like here in Orlando with the Magic, who just had Flamingo in here for October for the first exhibition game for the NBA, do you feel these sports will kind of experience the same ebb and flow as the tourism does with the theme parks, or do you think we have enough of a solid base with residences here that'll just maintain?
Oh, I think we have a solid base here.
Mm-hmm.
We have built, we're building a stadium that's sized appropriately for the support that we have locally.
Sure.
So I certainly hope that when we have Brazilian guests, that they take advantage. They would be crazy to come here and not want to see Kaká play.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I mean that was just, talk about hitting the jackpot.
Right.
When Flavio told me, he was sitting right there, I was sitting right here, it was probably a year and a half ago, when he told me his plans secretly to bring Kaká, and he was the first time that man lost credibility with me, because I'm like, yeah, okay, I don't think that's really going to happen, but that's a nice goal too. And lo and behold, I mean, I didn't know who I was talking to when I was sitting here with Flavio, and his abilities, his marketing genius, and his relationships. So if you're Brazilian and you're coming here, this is a must do event to come to one of the games. But our local population, we will fill that bowl. Trust me. Yeah, I don't see ebb and flow being an issue. I think it's going to be a steady support. And again, if you haven't been to one of the games, you don't know what this fan base is like. It's like nothing you've
That's
ever
so
seen
true.
with the enthusiasm. It's off the chart.
That's so true. I'm actually speaking with Magic Vice President and former GM, I'm sure you know, Pat Williams, on Friday. And he's going to have a unique perspective on professional sports, obviously, here in Orlando, since he was one of the architects of bringing the Orlando Magic here. Why do you think Orlando City has done so well with what you were talking about? I mean, they've sold over 12,000 season tickets already, and the Fill the Ball campaign. Why do you think it's taken off, so well?
I think that Phil, Flavio, the team, the leadership team, have put together all the pieces. I mean, from great coaching to great talent to marketing. They're awesome at marketing. I would love to have somebody like that. No matter what you're selling, you want to have them on your marketing team.
Sure.
All the right components, and having a strong fan base. You can't put a value on what that means to a team as well. So I think all of those pieces coming together, but they're phenomenal.
Yeah, speaking of Flavio da Silva, he's Brazilian. He's from Rio. He's a big fan of Flamengo, which is one of the bigger soccer clubs there.
Yes.
One of his goals was to make Orlando City the second team for Brazilians when they come. Obviously they're going to follow Corinthians or Flamengo or others, but signing Kaká and really kind of investing into that community, how do you feel that's going to translate in the future with not only the Brazilian community, but just in the soccer world by itself?
I think it's a tremendous plus. I can't overstate what an impact signing Kaká has been. We definitely want to be Brazil's American team. And I don't see that being too difficult. There's such a love between Florida, Central Florida, and Brazil, and Brazilians anyway. But this gives us an opportunity to just further cement that relationship between
Sure.
Brazil as a country and Orlando as a
Exactly.
region. Yeah.
Now, international trade and tourism are right in your wheelhouse. I mean, you've been a big supporter of that. Just a couple of years ago, you created the International Trade Office to do things in Colombia and Argentina and China. Can you kind of talk about your passion pertaining to international trade? And, it was just announced yesterday also we've reached over 97 million passengers here into Florida. Kind of talk about your passion to work with that and your goals as far as building more tourism as we strive to hit over 100 million next year.
Yeah, and we haven't announced our numbers here in Orlando yet.
Right.
But of course, we are the bulk of that 97 million. The
Sure.
largest amount of that is coming right here from Central Florida, from Orlando, Orange County. But when we talk about trade, I mean, I think that's one of those frontiers that we have really not fully explored, and that's why we're focusing on that. But one of the other reasons, and I will point to my trip to Brazil when I first got elected as inspiring. I went there never having been to Brazil and kind of curious, what are Brazilians like?
Sure.
And what I found was there's so many different cultures from across the globe. It's such an eclectic, diverse place, and it was just fascinating. I thought it was just the coolest thing, and I came back and I thought, we're on the verge of that. We're starting down that path of having more and more diversity in our community from around the world, and so I think that also is something that international trade benefits from and helps to promote that eclectic, really rich place to live, where there's so many different cultures that come together.
Yeah, it's true, and it differs from every city as well. It's
Yeah.
amazing. Not everyone was a full supporter, as you know, of building the new stadium, for Orlando City Soccer. And the biggest argument obviously thrown around is, why can't money be spent on improving the city, so on and so forth. Even if people really didn't understand how the tourist tax and everything worked, they just assumed that, it was not the way to go. But you're obviously the vice chair of the commuter rail with the Sunrail. There's improvements beginning. They were announcing yesterday about the I-4 deal. It's
Yes.
going to take 6 years and improve that, thank God.
Yes.
Can you kind of respond to that argument a little bit, and what are some of the plans we might not have heard about as far as we move forward for Orlando?
Thank you, and you're right. As far as Orange County's investment, it came from tourist development tax that is earmarked for certain things, and those things are marketing for tourism, or venues such as the Performing Arts Center, the new renovated Citrus Bowl and the soccer stadium.
Sure.
So those are the only things that we can use those funds for, but this was such an incredibly good investment, I think, for our citizens to take a substantial amount of tourist development tax dollars and invest them in venues that enrich the quality of life of our local citizens. And at the same time, as you point out, there are so many explosive things happening here in Central Florida that most regions across the country aren't experiencing. Widening of I-4, the improvements to I-4, those are going to be extremely important. Sunrail, finally, after all these years of talking about it.
Right.
And I think our timing is perfect, because I think that as a community we've reached a point where we're endorsing, supporting, embracing mass transit as a convenient tool and option. And we're going to be embracing it even more when the construction starts on I-4 and you
Exactly.
are trying to figure out how to get to work on time, right? And of course we're pursuing the expansion of Sunrail that will take you down to Kissimmee, that will take you up to DeLand and points beyond. So, and then in a perfect world, and I'm pretty sure we're going to get there here because we believe in dreaming big, we will have a connection from Sunrail, which will go right, just a few blocks away from our new soccer stadium,
Wow.
to the airport, to all aboard Florida, which will take you down to Miami. And I hope that at some point Beckham is successful in getting a stadium. I hope they hold him to the same standard as us. You have to have a stadium, but we'd love to see a team in Miami. I mean, we would love to have that rivalry, that interstate rivalry between a Miami Beckham team and a
Can you imagine? Wow.
Yeah,
They even made some
yeah.
comments, I think it was yesterday, talking about the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So eventually
Can you
Miami will get that done.
imagine?
That'll
Can
be
you
awesome.
imagine the people that'll be taking that train down
Oh,
to,
yeah.
To watch a game? I mean, that will be one big tailgating event all the way down, but
That's the
yeah,
truth.
awesome, yeah.
Just a couple more questions. I know you're busy. We'll let you go. Orlando City, getting back to them, they're not about crawling into the limelight quietly. I mean, they, everybody knows if you've ever been to an Orlando City game, it's crazy. It's a lot of fun. Phil Rollins, the club president, was just recently interviewed, and he said that, look, our initial goal is to make the playoffs. Well, as an expansion team, nobody really says that, but he's putting it out there, which I think obviously is very admirable, and
Yeah.
I think it's very exciting. Some of the Las Vegas rankings actually came out yesterday, and they had us ranked right in the middle of the pack at 12th, finishing 12th, and then they had New York's team, which is coming to play as the first game, round 6, because they have David Silva, a couple other players, so on and so forth. Long story short, is it more important for you and for the team, do you think, to make the playoffs, in the first couple of years to help, maintain this fan base, or do you think it's more important the first couple of years to fill up the stadiums and show the community, hey, yeah, this is working, that type of deal? I mean, are wins and losses going to be the driving force? Or
Well,
is
let
it
me
just
be
gonna be
clear.
the
I mean, it'd be great if we could do both, right?
Sure.
And if we make the playoffs, we'll always be filling up the stadium. But I think that the dedication that we've seen from the fan base that's already here is going to be there. I think Phil has put together a very strong coaching team, and we watched what they did in the minor leagues. I don't see any reason to expect anything less. So I'm extremely optimistic about how well they'll play. But I also think there's, I think that we expect some time to gel as a team. I'd be
Sure.
surprised if anybody was disappointed if they didn't make the playoffs. But I will also tell you, as I said before, they've told me a couple of things where I'm like, oh, you can't be serious, and by golly, they've delivered. So I wouldn't rule it out.
Awesome.
But I don't think our support as a community is contingent upon that.
And so just to wrap it up, we touched upon it a little bit at the beginning. You talked about, fans that might be on the fence. They've already sold over 43,000 seats for this game. Can you have anything to say, to the people here in the community that are on the fence about coming or not? Because obviously this is going to sell. It's going to sell quick. And do you have anything left to say?
I kind of already said it, but let me just say this. I'm sure most everybody's had the experience I've had where it was something I thought about doing and I just didn't get around to doing it. And then the next day I hear from everybody who went to some big event and it was a once-in-a-lifetime event and I missed it. And I hate when I have those regrets.
Sure.
So my advice to everybody who is here or thinking about visiting us the first week in March, no regrets. Be there at the game on March 8th. Be a part of history and be a part of an incredible day of soccer enthusiasm. So
Awesome.
You don't want to miss this. You just don't want to miss this.
well, listen, we really thank you so much, for your time, and we hope to see you in a couple of months when we launch the magazine, and definitely we'd love
And we'll
to sit
see you
down
on
with
March
you. For sure, we'll be there.
Absolutely.
This has
Thank
been
you.
Sean Slack again with Orlazil magazine. Thanks a lot for tuning in, and we'll talk soon.